Hello, I'm Simon.
And I'm Dan.
And this is the Wikicast, a podcast where Wikipedia takes us to a random article and we talk about what we find. Daniel, what are we talking about this week?
This week, Simon, we're talking about first contact, open parentheses, anthropology, close parentheses.
Oh, this is such a cool subject. Funnily enough, I said the words first contact just this morning to a friend of mine, because I started going to the gym with an old friend of mine, and we were talking about Star Trek films, and one of them is called First Contact. That's just quite strange that's come up. I half hoped that you'd randomise the article for that movie. I'm not going to lie.
Yes.
But just First Contact as a concept is so cool. But and this is anthropology specific, so it's not sort of sci-fi. This is Earth cultures meeting each other.
Yes. So we've got a nice tidy little opening sentence that gives us all the information we need, which reads: Anthropology, first contact, is the first meeting of two communities previously without contact and with one another. Notable examples of first contact are those between the Spanish Empire and the Arawak in 1492 and the Aboriginal Australians with Europeans in 1788, when the first fleet arrived in Sydney.
Because that's the thing. I feel like when we think of first contacts taking place, a lot of the time they are not really first contacts because there's been passing cultural connections. You know, like there wouldn't have been a first contact between the Roman Empire and the Chinese dynasties because they actually traded with each other indirectly and they were aware of each other's existence. Whereas like true first contact, like the Spanish and the Arawak, is actually quite rare, I imagine. I don't know if the article gives like examples, further examples.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because basically what we're asking is at what point or what parameters need to be met for it to be deemed first contact. You know, how close and in what sort of sense. So it goes on to say such contact is sometimes described as a discovery, such as the British and the United States did by creating the legal theory of the doctrine of discovery.
Right.
Which is interesting. I haven't heard about that.
Yeah.
It is generally the more technologically complex society that is able to travel to new geographic regions to make contact with those more isolated, less technologically developed societies. However, some object to the application of such a word to human beings, which is why first contact is generally preferred. The use of the term discovery tends to occur more in reference to geography than cultures. For an example of a common discovery debate, see the discoverer of the Americas.
Yeah, because like the humans on the discovery side, in quotation marks, they knew where they were. Like it implies a sort of a power dynamic, doesn't it? These humans were only discovered when technologically advanced humans found them. So yeah, yes. I'd agree with that.
So we've got some options. We've had a look at our sort of opener. Then we've got subsections: consequences, history, notable examples, see also, and references. I'm going to have a look at.
I imagine consequences are mostly negative. Well, I'm sure there are some friendly first contacts that actually didn't go that bad, but considering that a lot of first contacts, I imagine, were made by Europeans in sort of the age of sail, I'm imagining that the consequences of those were pretty rough.
The historical record indicates that when one culture is significantly more technologically advanced than the other, this side will be favoured by the disrupted nature of conflict, often with dire consequences to the other society. But the introduction of disease plays a critical role in the process. More isolated peoples who lived across border territories in low density succumbed to the illness brought from the comparatively high density of Europe. The indigenous indigenous populations had not had the time to develop immunity to the foreign diseases, all of which introduced at once, to which the more urbanized European populations had many years to develop. This isn't written very well. To develop some population immunity. So yeah, all of the sort of positives and negatives that you can sort of perceive by, or actually maybe sort of semi-aware of with the sort of the horrors of colonization through empire.
Because I have on my to read list, I have Guns, Germs and Steel by Jared Harris, which I believe is largely about these kinds of conflicts and why historically Europeans kind of triumphed in the Americas, for example, in that they committed genocide and just wiped out millions and millions of people. But it's one of those I don't know if you've read it or seen the documentary about it. It's one of these things that is obviously quite famous, but is quite flawed apparently. So I'd be interested to read it with a more critical eye. Like I feel like I read a lot of non-fiction quite uncritically, which is something that I'd like to work on. So, you know, kind of, again, funny that we randomized on this one. It's actually very relevant.
Absolutely.
So are there more examples that they give? They said there was a section for notable examples.
We've got a smattering of them, yeah. So we have circa year 1000, date unknown, the Indigenous Beothuk, who were a group of indigenous people who lived on the island of Newfoundland.
Meeting
were
the
discovered
Vikings.
By Leif Erikson.
Yeah.
Then we fast forward to 1492.
The Americas.
Indeed, yeah, with Christopher Columbus. 1595, Polynesians were discovered, or, you know, Alvaro de Mendaña de Neira for the Spanish Empire.
Right.
Initially friendly, but turning violent in the first encounter and leading to 200 local deaths in the first 2 weeks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I just feel like, because, you know, there's such an, you know, it's a common trope in science fiction, right? That, you know, first contact happens with aliens and then they turn violent. It's that just because, especially as Europeans, that's just what we've done. Like, I felt like if we were to meet another alien race now, I'd like to think if we were to, for example, go to the far side of the moon and somehow there was a subterranean species that we were just unaware of, I'd like to think that we wouldn't be violent towards them. Like, is this something that we've kind of quote unquote grown out of?
I think it must be. I mean, obviously it will be sort of circumstance dependent, I think. I mean, if there is no aggression shown to us, then I think there would be no need. But I think also in this day and age, we are more aware of the negatives for being, you know, for seen as being strong, but then also.
Yeah, I imagine it's also a philosophical difference, though, right? Like we do not have the illusion that we are innately superior. Well, okay, I say we. I mean that obviously some people still believe this, but you know, we don't have this assumption that we are innately superior to other beings. You know, in the way that I imagine Europeans then probably did. They saw these indigenous people as animals.
Exactly. But I guess then we would be trying to apply a sort of an Earth human to human predisposition.
Anthropocentric,
I guess, to something extraterrestrial.
I wonder, is there an article for first contact in science fiction, I wonder?
There is. I've got a link to it here at the bottom of the page.
Oh, hang on. I've got it up. Yeah, I've got it. Oh, this is actually shorter than I thought it would be. It's just a lot of examples, basically. Oh, wow. The two examples in the 2010s that are given, one of which is not in the 2010s, is Arrival and Axiom's End by Lindsay Ellis, which is a book I have read and I enjoyed. And Arrival is one of my favourite films that I've watched in the past couple of years. Arrival is extraordinary.
Kicking things off with H.G. Wells going into Arthur C. Clarke.
So is The War of the Worlds then the first example of a first contact? The first contact? Oh, I see. So the novel has been variously interpreted as a commentary on evolutionary theory, British imperialism, and generally Victorian superstitions, fears, and prejudices. So invasion literature was a thing at the time.
That's interesting.
And it's just he twisted it up by saying that we were the ones being invaded as humans. Wow. That's cool. And obviously there's the famous story with War of the Worlds about the Orson Welles radio broadcast when they did an adaptation of it on American radio.
And didn't they think it was legitimate?
People thought it was real and it caused a panic because it was you know, so apparently convincing, which I suppose is credit to the story and of course to Orson Welles. That because you know, if you were to, if it's your only source of information about the broader world and you just tune into the radio and you hear that, you know, I can understand why people would be taken in by it and why there would be a panic.
Absolutely.
Anyway, we actually talked about the article, which is a credit again to the quality of the article, Dan, because we haven't recorded for a little while. We have a lot to catch up on, actually.
An awful lot.
Because, well, we would have recorded, I think, 2 weeks ago, and then we had to cancel, and I can't remember why. And then last week we had to cancel because you unfortunately got the big Rona.
I was struck down with plague.
So that's both of us now in rapid succession. And you are. We spoke before recording, but you're largely out of it now.
Yeah. I'm testing. I was testing negative on lateral flow tests on days 6 and 7, which meant that I could leave isolation early rather than having to stay cooped up for the full 10 days.
Right.
Which was much appreciated. Aside from, I think maybe sort of a day and a half where I was really bad.
Yeah.
I think it was the Monday or the Tuesday night or something. And I was it was horrific, really, really bad fever, banging headache, just feeling completely rotten. And so basically not just feeling like, oh, it was a bad cold.
Yeah, it sort of tipped over into being something a bit more.
Yeah, exactly. But then the rest of it was just, like a bad cold, bit of a sniff, sneezing quite a lot. This dry cough, which has basically disappeared now. And yeah, I feel fine. I mean, I'm just so glad. I was talking to some friends and I was saying I was so glad that, by the time that I had succumbed to coronavirus, I've had I've had 2 vaccines and a booster. I dread to think what it would have been like for me to have got it, having not had, a booster or even perhaps my full set of vaccinations. Yeah,
because I mean, I'm just glad that you didn't have it terribly badly, because however many times now I've had it, it's been pretty rough. Definitely getting weaker. Like the most recent time was definitely nowhere near as bad as the first time round.
Sure.
But it can be. I mean, obviously it can be deadly. But for young people who are in reasonable health like us, it's not such a concern. But it's not pleasant.
No.
And I suppose the other thing which has happened on your end since we last did an episode was you fully got stuck into the law thing.
Yeah.
You're actually really into this course now.
I'm properly in my sort of last sort of year, if we like, of the academic side of things. So my final GDL papers were sat in early to sort of mid-January, which was EU law and criminal law. And then I had a research essay due early Jan as well, which is also one of the few things that counts towards your sort of final mark, aside from your core module assessments, the exams. So they're all done, and I've now started my legal practice course, which is being phased out. In fact, I think I'm one of the last years who's actually able to do the LPC, which has been the sort of standard for solicitors sort of training, if you like. There's the LPC for solicitors, and there's the bar course for barristers. It's now the LPC is going to morph into something called the SQE, the Solicitors Qualifying Examinations, which is a 2-year course, which is meant to also encompass, from my limited understanding of it, bits of the training contract, which is something that you do after your LPC. So you do your academic year of LPC, although it's not really academic, it's practical law. You're working as a sort of legal practitioner as opposed to an academic. And then you apply to a firm, and if you're able to secure a training contract immediately, then that's fantastic. If not, you might be doing some work as a paralegal and then starting a training contract where you work through your various seats, which is just sort of legal speak for studying or rather working in a particular field. So you get a good spread across, I think you've got to do 4 seats, and each seat is 6 months, right, at least. And then when you've completed all of that, your details are sent off to the I guess the Solicitors Regulation Authority, and when that's done, then you're fully qualified, and you can refer to yourself as and seek jobs for solicitors.
So that is the point at which you could call yourself a lawyer. Up until that point, you are still a legal student.
I think you can still. I think post GDL, I suppose I could call myself a lawyer, because if you're working as a paralegal, you'll be doing aspects of work that would encompass a lawyer's work. But to call yourself a solicitor, you need to have completed your training contract and been accepted by, the various sort of groups and all the admin around that.
So you can slap that on the dating profile. It's like as soon as someone's qualified as a doctor, bam.
Basically, yeah. So I have started my LPC, and then I'm doing a master's at the same time, which is hilarious because it's a rather. So there are different options if you want it. The reason I'm doing a master's is if I do a master's alongside my LPC, I can apply for postgraduate funding because the LPC isn't a master's degree. Right. Whereas if I do the MSc, which is what I'm doing, then I can apply for funding and fund most of both really. So instead of doing an LLM, Masters in Law, I'm doing an MSc, Masters of Science in Law, Business and Finance. So to think, if you rewound, I don't know, 6 years ago, when I was starting as an undergraduate, and said, at some point you'll hold a Masters of Science degree, I'd have laughed. But thanks to the weird sort of, sorting and categorizing of academic degrees, I will be Daniel Moore, BA Hons, GDL, LPC, MSc.
That's a lot of letters.
Which is fun, more than anything.
What am I?
I was looking at my. Speaking of which, sorry, this is completely sort of irrelevant, but because of these things, and because I sing in cathedrals and sort of various sacred Anglican contexts, an academic hood is quite useful.
Yes, of course.
And I bought mine from Exeter because I can wear it in a service, and it turns out that I'm entitled to a new one for my GDL and a new one for my LPC and masters. I also then, because the GDL is a postgraduate qualification, can get my new gown, my master's gown, as opposed to my undergraduate one. Mm-hmm. And I was on Eden Ravenscroft's website a few days ago, just wondering, sort of, I wonder how much it will cost me to sort of, get my new things. Certainly, I can look at buying the first hood, and then maybe the gown at some point, and then when I finish my LPC and masters, get that one too. And I put all three of them into my basket and had a look. And
hang on, let me guess.
Anyway,
like £600?
Not quite 600, thankfully. I am buying the. You can either buy the gown as polyester for 130, or cotton and wool, so like much nicer, much thicker, just a bit more plush, for I think 180, and then I think each hood is about £80 or £90 a pop. So it's going to come to something like with shipping and VAT, it's going to be about 300 quid.
Because I remember there was a time when I was going to do my PhD at Oxford, and if I'd stayed there, I would have had use for buying my undergrad, the hood and gown, because you'd wear it relatively frequently, and you hire it for graduation. But if I wanted to buy it, I think it was about £300, which is
crazy.
It's just ridiculous. I was just saying, because you've got a lot of letters. I think you've got more letters than me now, because I'm Simon Clark, MPhil Oxon, PhD. I don't think
PhD Exon as well.
PhD, yes, I suppose you can. I mean, at what point does the university get its own letters? Because I know Oxon and Cantab definitely do.
I think it's at the point of Royal Charter.
Oh, really?
Or they just use them anyway because it's a weird sort of backward academic thing.
It's
it's only of real use for Oxford and Cambridge because there's the sort of the silly masters you get, which isn't an academic qualification. It's just a thing they give you, provided that you haven't.
Yeah, I did an extra year of work.
Or you still accept God or something.
I did an extra year of work, and I apparently had the same qualification as a bunch of people who just did 3. It's not fair. It's outrageous. I deserve the rank of master. That actually really worked as a joke. I was making that up as I went, and that really worked. So, I mean, not to drag this initial section of the podcast out too much, but obviously a couple of things have been happening with me as well. This is the first episode we recorded since I wrote a book and it's come out.
Of course.
Yeah,
huge excitement.
Which has been a really strange process. Because it's weird because in my head I thought that actually the release date wouldn't be that unusual because there's a long build up of lots of meetings with publishing people and getting stuff ready or doing interviews or whatever. And then I figured that over the course of a couple of months it'd be like a gradual wave. Mm-hmm. Which I think is still true. I think there is still a general momentum over the whole area. But on the day itself, it was a whirlwind. Like, I don't think I got anything useful done because it was like every 5 minutes there'd be something in my inbox or something on socials that would need to be replied to. And obviously, as a publisher, the publisher encourages you to, post on Instagram, post on Twitter, engage with people. And it was absolutely wild, the day itself.
Mm-hmm.
And now in the aftermath, we're still getting, every now and again a review will come out, and so it's promoting that. But I am very pleased to say that the book's had some fantastic reviews. The Sunday Times did a feature on it. The Financial Times gave it a review, both of which were very positive. The Irish Independent just did a review the other day. All of the reviews have been really, really positive, and apparently the sales have been very good for a first-time non-fiction author. So
I'm just looking you up on Goodreads now.
Oh God! Oh no, I haven't looked. I don't think I want to know. Actually,
it's good. It's positive. It's very positive.
Okay.
You've got a review of 4.9 out of 5.
Out of how many? With how many ratings?
20 ratings, 7 reviews.
Wow. Oh no! Don't tell me any more than that. I literally don't want to know. It's so strange because it was the same as YouTube videos, I suppose. Like, you don't read the comments past a certain point because I will get the opinion of people who I respect and value their opinions. People who've written books before. I would love to get an in-depth analysis from them, but I feel like looking at public reviews and constantly chasing that approval is just the way to madness. So
yeah, absolutely.
I'm just trying to be a little bit removed from it. But yeah, it has been really positive. And actually, I am very pleased that people have specifically been enjoying the audiobook. Because a few people, including our friend Isabel from Now, we should probably mention, the Swedish offshoot of the Wikicast is official, in that they are making regular episodes. So Isabel, Eric, and Greta, if you happen to speak Swedish, sorry, I keep looking at the camera above my computer as if we're live streaming because I'm in such a habit now.
You're a consummate professional. So
I just always which camera? That one with the light on. Yeah. Okay. So if you do happen to speak Swedish, you can check them out. We'll leave them a link in the description. They have assured me that the quality is about the same as the regular Wikicast. So take that as you will. But so Isabel posted that she actually listened to the whole book on the first day.
Strong.
And really enjoyed it. And people when I did a reading on Twitch seemed to enjoy it. And yeah, like, as an experience, it was very intense doing the audiobook. So it's nice to hear that people have enjoyed listening to it. And it's something that's made me think that actually, maybe I'm kind of okay at doing this. It's definitely pierced through the imposter syndrome a little bit.
Definitely.
Not saying it's fully gone. But let's just generally, it's been quite a lot of big action happening behind the scenes and some in front of the camera, because there's the book, but also I've now been working with my editor for 2 videos now, which is going really well. Like, every single time I pass over a bunch of footage with some notes and here's an annotated script, or in one case I just sent over a live stream and I was like, what can you make from this? What can you make as like a cut down video? And he absolutely smashed it out of the park. It was every single time. It has. I've been told this by other YouTubers that when you get an editor like full time, that's the point at which there's just a step up, because you can quality just goes up so much and you can do so much more. So I'm really, really excited about sort of the way things are going at the moment. And then also Pixel Girl and I are in the process of trying to buy a house, which is infuriating and takes up a lot of time. Just to give you one brief story from the front line, Dan, this is wild. So we went to look at a house, a new build, so it actually hadn't been built yet, but there was a plot, and they said this is what's going to go on this plot, and it's going to go for a certain amount of money, and it was towards the upper end of our budget anyway. And so we called up to get a meeting with the development office so they could talk us through it, and if we were interested we could possibly reserve it. And they said, right, we can't fit you in for a week, come in, but we'll come in and see you on Wednesday or whenever it was. Right, which we did. We went over, and in that week they said, right, so that property is actually now gone, but the next door property, which is exactly the same, it's literally just the next one down the street for a 3-bedroom house, is now for sale, but it's actually £8,000 more. So it's the same house on the same street a week later, and it's £8,000 more, which Pixel Girl nearly rage quit and just nearly walked out. Like it was just so absurd. And the market at the moment is just ridiculous. Like, especially considering that it's quite likely there's going to be a housing crash sometime in the near future. But like, you don't know when that's going to be, and if it does happen, you just stay where you've bought for a couple more years. Like, it's not a fatal mistake, I don't think, to buy now. You're still getting on the ladder, but it's a terrible, terrible time to try and do it. My word. Fingers crossed. By the time we next do an episode in like 2 weeks, there'll be some positive news. But I wouldn't hold your breath. Because it's for 2 weeks, you'd probably pass out. Well,
fingers crossed, I think is the right way to go about it.
Yeah, like, you know, we only have so much control over what's going on. We've just got to try and ride the wave, as my dad would say.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's actually you know what, Dan? We did a great job so far this episode. We actually talked about the Wikipedia article. We fill people in on our lives, which is obviously what people come here to do. They just come here to hear about what we've been up to in our banal little lives. But what I would like to know is, can we keep the quality going in Dan's choral piece of the week?
Oh, we absolutely can. And this will be my piece of the week. Drum roll, please.
Go on then, hit me with it.
Quite an exciting one, because I've heard about this piece for a long time, but I've never performed it, because it is fiendishly difficult, and the University of Exeter Chapel Choir, with whom I'm singing on an occasional basis, Michael has decided to put down this term the pulank Mass in G.
I've heard some rumblings about this.
The Messe en Sol majeur, and it is completely bonkers, as you would expect with pulank. It's just amazing. It's very clever and very silly, and just, yeah, as I say, exactly what you expect. There's a reputation that pulank has amongst choral musicians, or I imagine probably musicians in general, but particularly choral, because it's very, very difficult music to sing. It's a sort of unspoken rule that you should never really attempt just to try and sight read pulank, having never heard or looked at the piece before, because it is just mad. It's one different thing after another.
I mean, for people who maybe not know, because he's a relatively unknown composer, I think, outside of sort of our field, possibly. I mean, could you just fill in, like, you know, he was like early 20th century, right? So like 20s and 30s.
Yeah. So certainly I'm trying to remember where he was. Hang on, let me find his Wikipedia.
Welcome to the France Wikicast.
The Wikipedia. He's a French composer and pianist. His compositions include songs, solo piano works, chamber music, choral pieces, operas, ballets, and orchestral concert music. There should be a bit here on style.
Oh, sorry, I've got this up at the moment as well. This is interesting. Poulenc made the acquaintance of Eric Satie, under whose tutelage he became one of a group of young composers called Les Six, or the Six. I think he's the most famous one of them. You've got Ulrich Dury, Honegger, Milhaud, Poulenc, and Taillefer. I cannot pronounce that. And I was wondering if it was sort of going to include people like Ravel or Debussy. Oh, no. The music is often seen as a neoclassic reaction against the musical style of Wagner and the impressionist music of Debussy and Ravel. Yeah. The opposite.
So there's a description here. Poulenc's music is essentially diatonic. In Henry Hall's view, this is because the main feature of Poulenc's musical art is his melodic gift. The composer, Lennox Berkeley, wrote of him, "All through his life he was content to use conventional harmony, but his use of it was so individual, so immediately recognisable as his own, that it gave his music freshness and validity." Yeah, and I think absolutely the writing is incredibly melodic, but so singers will often sort of talk about voice leading. And one of the things that makes Poulenc's music so mental is, I think I'm right in saying that he composed an awful lot of his stuff just sitting at the piano.
Oh, wow.
So a chord will work and will make sense in his mind, but for a singer, you know, transitioning from one chord to another may not have a great deal of sort of it might not make a lot of sense.
Yeah, the line
because
might
you
not
can't,
be there. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't anticipate like where you should be moving because it's so colourful.
Because I remember our friend Dr. Jones, who is himself a phenomenal composer, saying that basically all composers now will that they will write down the chords. They know what they want to do, whereas I'm not sure if that's the same as sitting down at the piano. Because when he said sitting down at the piano, I assumed that meant that he would be trying to find the melody connecting those chords. So I don't know. This is the technical side, and especially composing side of music that I know so little about.
I think it was Messiaen as well. He did a lot of sort of sitting down and hammering stuff out, as far as his sort of compositional approach is concerned. But yeah, it's amazing. This Mass in G is just fantastic. And if you haven't listened to it, I really, really, really recommend it. It's so much fun, and I'm really looking forward to being able to add it to my sort of ever-expanding list of just sort of knowledge of the repertoire, because it's just very useful, especially for a piece like this. Like if you're ever going and singing elsewhere or depping for something, and it suddenly turns up, and somebody sort of director of music might look at you in a slightly stressed way and go, "Do you know it?" And you go, "Yeah, it's fine."
Same. And I'm going to listen to this to try and expand my horizons. It's interesting. At the end of the little abstract at the start of the article, it says that he was for the longest time Poulenc had a reputation as being a humorous, lightweight composer, which I just cannot imagine. Having heard, I mean, the stuff I've heard is like his Christmas music. Like,
yeah,
I just don't know how you could draw that conclusion.
Crazy. Well, it's marvelous.
I actually have some more music for you, Dan, which I want to talk about in Critics Corner.
Ooh.
So the music that I have to talk about initially is, well, I mean, it's going to be very familiar to one person listening to this podcast because it was sent by them. I'd like to talk briefly about some stuff that Fergus, our wonderful current editor, has put together and sent me in an email, and I will forward on to you. Now, basically, there's 2 recordings that he sent over of... that was it, yes. With Fergus Macready and Matt Carmichael.
This is Fergus, the editor. To clarify, the Fergus that Simon mentions is not me but a different Fergus.
I will leave links to these in the show notes. They are these sort of 6 to 8 minute long jazz pieces that are just really, really good. I listened to a little bit of jazz, but not that much. But as soon as I heard this, I was like, I don't know much about jazz, but I know what I like, and I really like this. So not very much to sort of add to that. What I will do is put the links in the show notes, and I will send you the links, Dan.
Sure.
I think you'd really like it. It's very kind of... Oh gosh, I'm running out of words to try and describe music, really. It's very energetic. Soulful's the wrong word. Basically, it's something that has substance to it, is energetic, but it also kind of... When I say energetic, it quite frequently makes it sound like it's like Flight of the Bumblebee or something like that. Like this has mass behind it. Can't describe it any better than that. But that's something that I think people should listen to because I think it's really good.
Yeah.
Have you discovered anything recently that you'd like to critique?
I don't think so. I had to start planning a new concert with the Chagford Singers, the choir I conduct out in deepest, darkest Dartmoor. And we've got, I think, quite an exciting programme for our May concert. We're kicking off the first half with the Vivaldi Gloria.
Right. The whole
which
thing?
Is marvellous. The whole thing.
Wow.
Yeah, it's about depending on the sort of timers and things, I imagine ours is going to run to probably about 36, 38 minutes.
Right.
And then, actually, one second. I was given an email the other day that contains...
The ticker tape's
all
coming
of my
through.
Music choices. Yes, here we go. And then in the second half, I wanted it to be sort of quite a light-hearted concert that sort of moved through various different styles to give everybody a sort of a flavour of sort of fairly light-hearted music for a May afternoon, summer evening. So I think we're spanning sort of mid-late 15th century to 21st century, which is always nice to have a spread that sort of wide.
Yeah.
So we've got Gibbons, the Silver Swan.
Nice.
Then we move into 2 madrigals. Fair Phyllis I saw sitting all alone, and now is the month of Maying.
Good choices.
Bruckner, Locust Day, and then possibly Ave Maria, but I think that might be slightly too greater divisi parts. Some Franck, Panis Angelicus, but the SATB arrangement of it. And then some Gielo, with the ground, which is the Sanctus setting, I think, of his sunrise mass.
I was listening to the Kyrie from that just yesterday. Lovely piece.
And then some Rutter, and finally Lauridsen, Sure on This Shining Night, which is from his Nocturnes set, which is really nice.
Is it because there's 2 kinds of Rutter, isn't there? There's it could be one or 2 things basically.
We're either going to be doing For the Beauty of the Earth, because it's a crowd pleaser and they'll love it, or Gaelic Blessing, Garlic Dressing.
The garlic dressing, yeah.
Well, I think it's either going to be one or the other, to be honest. I don't know whether I can really hack doing both of them. I'm at the moment leaning more towards For the Beauty of the Earth, because there's quite a lot of stuff to learn before May, obviously, and then including the Vivaldi Gloria, and I need to source some soloists for that. I need a alto and 2 sopranos, or countertenor and 2 sopranos.
Right.
So it's busy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I had one other thing which I'd like to mention in this section, and then we'll get to that in just a second. There's a YouTube channel I'd like to recommend. This may not be so much for you, but it's a channel that I found an absolutely... You know when you find something new and you just like... You watch one video and you're like, right, put my swimming cap on and my goggles, I'm going in, and you watch like 80 videos. There's a guy called Arbiter Ian, who does videos about Games Workshop and wargaming. It's not specifically 40k. A lot of it is, but it's just one of these channels that I found, and there's something about the way that he makes his content, something about his rhythm of speaking, the way that he makes it, that I just completely fell in love with. So he's done videos on the timeline of 40k from the present day right the way up to sort of the latest developments in the setting, but also things like what happened to squats, which was dwarves in space, basically. Sort of the history of a particular model line, and he's also done a tale of 4 gamers. Just great. If any of that sounds interesting to you, I'll leave a link to his channel in the show notes as well. I fully went down the rabbit hole in a way that I haven't done for a YouTube channel for quite some time. Actually, I can't remember the last time I really found a channel and did this. James Gurney, that was the other thing. There's an artist called James Gurney who, if you ever read or watched Dinotopia?
I don't think so.
It was a book that then was turned into a TV series about this undiscovered island about 100 miles long in the Pacific where dinosaurs survived and they coexist with humans. But it was written by this guy who was a concept artist and fantasy illustrator, who just is this phenomenal painter, and he has a YouTube channel where he does sort of examples of painting and talks about particular techniques, which is something that on flat surfaces I obviously paint models, but I would love to actually do some oil painting or gouache or gouache. I'm not entirely sure how you're supposed to pronounce it, like he does. But yeah, tell you what, I'll leave a link to that one as well. Why not? A link bonanza today, dear readers.
Wowzers.
Well, Dan, that is almost the last thing that I want to talk about, because I have another thing that I would like to introduce you to in the next section. So, Dan, I have discovered a game that I think is perfect for this podcast. It's called Wiki Trivia.
Right.
And I want to be very clear before we start. This isn't sponsored or anything. The creator has not been in touch with us. They don't know that we are making this. But I'm pretty sure this is it's a simple browser game that's made by a single man called Tom J. Watson.
Right.
And all that it is you're presented with cards, one after the other, that are Wikipedia articles. And all you have to do is put them in chronological order.
I see.
So initially, this is quite easy, and then it gets really quite hard. And I thought that we could try and play... I'd like to play a game
Sure.
on the podcast. So it's almost like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, because like it's very easy to begin with, and then it definitely gets harder and harder. So,
Right.
to begin with, our first two cards are Stoicism, which was created in 300 BC. And do we think that the American hip hop group D12 was created before or after Stoicism?
I'm gonna say after.
That's correct. You got £100.
Amazing, great.
Okay, the next card is Bicycle. When was the bicycle discovered? So D12 were founded in 1996, Stoicism in 300 BC.
Bicycle would have been before the American group, but after Stoicism.
Yeah, so in the middle of the two.
Yeah.
£200. Okay, we can speed through some of these. Amy Sedaris, the American comedian, who is current, alive, and photographed in colour. When was she born?
So she's our new most recent. So after the group, were we saying?
I mean, the group is was founded in 1996, and in this photo, she looks about 30 or 40.
Fine. Okay, so before the American group.
I'd
Just
say
before.
so. 1961. Yeah. Okay, now things get a bit more difficult.
Right.
Mongolian script. Vertically written traditional Mongolian script. When was this created? So for reference, we currently have Stoicism at 300 BC and Bicycle at 1885.
Okay, so it would be after Stoicism.
I think so. Sometimes, and I should point out, you have 3 lives. Once you burn through those 3 lives and get things wrong, then game is over.
What? When Stoicism was when? Sorry.
300 BC.
Yeah. Okay. No. Definitely. Definitely.
I'd say so, but
Stoicism.
sometimes you get surprises. So Mongolian script was invented in 1204.
Right.
We're now into like the £16,000 kind of question range, I think. No, but we're into the £1,000, like that kind of range.
Right. Sure.
Okay, the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disaster.
Can you remind me of the other dates that we've got?
The most recent one we have so far is D12 being founded in 1996.
Right.
So this is definitely the relatively recent, the tsunami hitting Fukushima in Japan.
Yeah. So that's going to be our new most recent.
I definitely say so. I think it was like it's 2011. Okay.
Right.
Oh, one that might be up your alley. The Napoleonic Code, the civil code. Do we think that this was before or after 1885?
It's before. It's really early, isn't it? It's something. It's like is it 1802 or 3?
Let's find out. 1804. Very good.
Ooh.
Oh. That's such a monkey. Okay, now things get a bit trickier again. So, Raharaja I, the Chola Emperor, and each of these articles has a picture associated with it. This looks to be of a wall painting of an individual who's rendered in red. Raharaja I. So for reference, we currently have Stoicism at 300 BC, Mongolian script at 1204, and Napoleonic Code at 1804. Chola or Chola, Chola, Emperor. I don't know when that dynasty.
Well, now that I've got the spelling, Simon, I know exactly where.
Well, I thought it
I know
might
exactly
help.
where I'll be. Okay, wait. Sorry, give me the dates once more.
So we have Stoicism at 300 BC, Mongolian script at 1204, and Napoleonic Code at 1804. I think it's almost certainly before 1804.
Yeah, I'm going to say it's before the 1204 one. What was that?
Yeah, that was Mongolian script. I agree with you. And
So before Mongolian script, but after Stoicism.
And we are correct. Raharaja I was born in 947.
Right.
Okay, now, the next one is the Bad Shahi Mosque, a mosque in Punjab made by Empire Azringawal.
Right.
So it's in Punjab. So that's North India.
Pakistan.
Oh, isn't Punjab a region in India? I thought.
Oh, I thought it was Pakistani.
Oh god, that's a pretty divisive place to get something wrong.
Okay, it's give me the dates once more. So we've got Stoicism super early. Then we've got that
the Emperor in 947.
And then we go to what?
And then Mongolian script in 1204, 1804.
Okay, so it's going to be between 12 and 18, isn't it?
I think so. Looking at the design, it could be later because it does. Like I have a picture. I mean, it looks like a relatively typical mosque that's old, but I don't know enough about Islamic architecture to tell you.
I think it's got to be. It can't be earlier than 12, and I can't think it's. I think 18 is too late.
Okay, locking it in. 1671.
Okay.
Okay, next up, the Governor General of India, the Viceroy of British India. When did this end? Now, I am pretty sure that the India was declared independence in 1948. So I would imagine that was when that happened.
I mean, it sounds good to me.
So that would be between 1885 and 1961. Okay. Oh, technically it ended in 1950. Okay. Oh boy, this one's okay. The King of Saudi Arabia. When was the position of King of Saudi Arabia created? I mean, a vague guess.
That's so vague. I mean, that's got to be just a stab in the dark, hasn't it? Okay, the King of Saudi Arabia.
Now the thing is, I don't know how old as a country Saudi Arabia is.
Yeah.
So it could be surprisingly modern.
Is it going to be? Do you reckon it's going to be after that 18 whatever date?
1804. I don't know. I mean, it could. I think it's. My gut is similar to you. I think.
Did it say when did it end?
No. When was it created?
Oh right.
Because I think that is going to be specifically when was Saudi Arabia a country, and I'm not sure when that was. I would guess 19th or 20th century. Actually, I don't think as a country it's that old.
No.
We've lost all our Saudi viewers now. I mean, we get 3 lives, so if we just bang it in somewhere, it's not the end of the world.
Should we say like early 20th century?
So between the bicycle and the end of the Governor General of India, I think that's as good a guess as any.
Yeah, let's put that in. Why not?
Oh, we got it right!
Oh, when was it then?
1932.
Ah.
So between the wars. Okay. This is one that hopefully you should know. Jabberwocky. When was the Jabberwocky published by Lewis Carroll? That's got to be late 19th century, right?
Yeah, it must be. When was he was? It's going to be like 1880 or 1870 or something like that. Where would that fit in our timeline?
The 3 dates that we have that are relevant are 1804, 1885, and 1932. So do you think it's after or before 1885?
I think it's going to be, in my mind, it's very close to 85, but it's definitely going to be before. It's definitely not later than that.
Okay, bank. 1871.
Right. Okay. All right,
Okay.
That's close.
Okay, I think we are going to be taking a stab in the dark with this one, Daniel.
Right.
Because the next one is Kuing Aman. Kouign. Amann. It's a cake from Brittany. When was this discovered? I mean, it looks like a pancake. Like, it looks like a flat cake. So it could be quite old or it could be quite recent. It's a stab in the dark.
Well, the weird thing about like pastries like that is that they can be like comically old.
Yeah, totally.
You know, like they can be really old.
I mean, okay, rough time period. Do we think medieval?
Let's put it after 16, whatever it was. We had that date, didn't we?
Yeah, so I think it'll be between 1204, 1671, or 1804. So after 1671?
It's either after 1671 or after 1804. What do you think?
After 1804, the next one we have is 1871. So
there's a big chunk of time there.
Yeah. What, do you think...
If I had to lean towards one for no reason other than thinking I have to lean somewhere, I'd go after 1804.
Okay, bank. I'm going to put it in. We got it right! Oh my god.
Whoa.
1860.
All right.
Okay, next up is... We're doing very well, by the way. Like, my high score is 22, and I'm not sure how many we're on at the moment. Someone's been keeping score, I'm sure.
They have 12.
Right, next up. When was Little Women published by Louisa May Alcott? That's got to be 19th century again, but I'm not sure when.
Yeah.
Like, late 19th century? After 1885?
No, I don't...
I'm trying to think of the movie that came out recently, and
Yeah.
like the fashion in that. Like, they're in Paris, and it looks like it's...
I want to say it's somewhere around... It's going to be like late 1850s, 1860s. I don't think it's late as 85.
Right, so the dates that we have then are 1804, 1860, 1871, and 1885.
After 1860.
Okay, I trust you on this one. You're the literary type here. We got... Oh, snuck it in again.
When was it?
It was published in 1868.
Oh, right.
We got our 3 lifelines intact. This one, I think we are probably going to get right. When did Barabbas, biblical person, die?
Oh, God.
I'm pretty sure this was between 300 BC and 947 AD, you know?
Yeah.
I'm just going to slot that one in. 100 AD, apparently. Wait, Barabbas died in 100? Wait, hang on. The criminal that they called for at the crucifixion of Jesus, which took place in about 30 AD, let's say, he then lived for another 70 years. That doesn't make any sense. Also, I had one the other day that was Simeon, as in famous for his song, and it claimed that he died in 1 BC, whereas surely that's the year before Christ was born. Or is this one of these things that Christ was born in 1 BC, technically, because there's no 0 AD?
Yeah, it probably is.
Okay, that might explain it. Because obviously, he saw baby Jesus and was like, great, I can pop my clogs. Right, okay, another actually quite easy one. Battle of Kursk, World War II battle. We have dates between 1932 and 1950. So I'm pretty sure that this was 44. 43, okay. Oh, okay. IBM. When was IBM created?
As in
the software company. I think it was after 1950, but before 1961?
I think it's older. I think it's one of these ones that's been around for quite a while.
I mean, what? And they just made stuff before digital computers. They made like calculators or something.
Because I mean, what does IBM stand for?
That's a really good question.
Isn't it? It's got nothing to do with tech, hasn't it? Isn't it just like B is for business?
I think M stands for machine. I want to say it was a company created for computers. Oh, I don't know. It's got to be. I reckon it's sometime in the mid 20th century. It's a question of whether we think it's before or after 1950.
I think it's definitely before 1950.
Okay. Do you think it's before World War II?
Oh, see, I don't know.
This is where it gets hard. I mean, I think we've got to bang it in somewhere.
I'm trying to think whether there's been anything in the news about them celebrating
like an anniversary,
centenary or something.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if it is earlier.
Okay.
Which I appreciate isn't helpful.
Should we put it between 1932 and 1943?
Sure, why not?
For the record, I want the record to show that I think this is wrong, but we've got to move on.
Yeah, I think it's wrong as well.
Oh my god, 1911.
See, like, how would you know? That's so...
So hang on, I'm just going to click on the article here.
Yeah.
IBM stands for International Business Machines Corporation.
Right.
It was originally founded in 1911. And... Oh, wow, the history's really long. It made things like paper, like time clocks, like paper, clocking in and out type things.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, okay. So that's our first lifeline gone. Okay, the Frankfurt Stock Exchange. When do we think this was created?
Right.
There's a picture of the building, and I mean, it looks like it could have been built any time between 1850 and 2000. Looking at it, like it's quite nondescript.
I think it's going to be late 1800s.
So after 1885. Because the big thing was stock exchanges.
Yeah, let's say after.
Like the Dutch did it in like the 1700s, right? That was like the first stock exchange.
Was it?
But then this building doesn't look that. But then again, of course, it could just be a new building. Okay, I'm going to bang it in because otherwise this podcast is going to be really, really long. Let us know, by the way, in emails if you'd like us to do this again, because I think this could be a regular section.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say between 1885 and 1911. Happy?
I mean, God knows, mate.
Wow!
How wrong were we?
1585.
Whoa!
Right? That's nuts.
That's insane. 1585.
Yeah, I would never have guessed that early.
No.
It must be a new building. So that was the one bit of information I had. Wow.
Crazy.
Okay, one that I think we should be able to get. Siege of Vicksburg, Battle of the American Civil War. So that was 1840s, 50s?
I think that around then, wasn't it?
So we have 1804 and 1860 is like two dates. So I'm pretty sure it's between those two.
We've got 18 what and
1804 and 1860.
That doesn't give us much headroom, though, does it?
Well, it's 54 years, 56 years.
No, I mean like headroom after 1860, because I can't remember specifically when the American Civil War was.
I think it was 1840s. I'm pretty sure it's like then. I don't think it's as late as 1860.
What have we got above? What's our higher limit on 18?
And we got 1860, 1868, 1871. We've got quite a few. I'm bunging it in.
Okay.
Bank. No! 1863. So we got 15 right, which is pretty good. That's not pretty good going.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Holy crap. Well, did you enjoy that?
I did. That's good. I'm going to play this.
Yeah, I'll send you the link, and I'll put the link in the show notes as well. Yet another link to the link bonanza. But if you'd let us know in emails if you'd like us to do that again, because I'm kind of addicted to this game. Top lad. Right, and we find ourselves in Patreon Corner. Very briefly, this is the part of the show that pays for the show. Patreon.com/the Wikicast is where you can pledge your support for $1 a month or $5 a month if you're particularly generous. And you get to choose whether you are Team Cat or Team Dog. It's actually it's more even than it used to be, isn't it? Like it was kind of a walkover before. I have 23 top cats to thank. How many top dogs do you have?
18.
Ooh, okay. So it is actually pretty tight. So if you want to pledge your allegiance to cats or dogs, then you can do. And basically, it pays for the hosting of the show. It pays for our wonderful editor and musician, Fergus. And means that once the pandemic's calmed down a bit and our lives have calmed down a bit, we can finally do a bunch of filming together. And it will pay for all of the alcohol that we need to make it through that session. We're going to be like Red Letter Media and just be steaming drunk. In everything we make.
Half in the bag.
Yeah. Let's talk about movies. Right, do you have some people you'd like to thank, Dan?
I do, I really do. I'd like to say a massive thank you to the top dogs. And they are as follows. We have Christian from the Alps, Amy Bonney, Martin Narciso, Sam Harvey, Ben Caples, Josh Chiaga, Henry VII, King of England and of France, Lord of Ireland, Andrian with an N, Chan, Naf Laroch, Hasse Hansen, Aaron Jorgensen, Lexi at Front Desk, Eve Sharples, Alistair Fortune, Peter Reed, Colin J. Brown, Ben McMurtry, and Jay Wright. Thank you so much.
Well, I would like to thank some people as well. I'd like to thank the people who pledge at the top cat level, and I'm going to sort by something different. What am I going to sort by? I'm going to sort by lifetime pledge. So I'd like to say a very special thank you to Oliver Craigie, Dan Hanvey, Matt Maguire, Isabella Strowski, Chococat, Colm Mansfield, Princess Andromeda, Oliver Burkhart, Layla Medina, Omar Miranda, Rents Kirk, Will Jenice Humphreys, Lewis Watson, Bendant, Nafi Iftikhar, Izzy CC, Jack Easton, Simon P, Abu El Ella, the Physics Boy, Dame Valerie III, Easy, Nathan Flaherty, and Andy Hartley. Thank you, one and all. You make the show possible. It's all your fault. Top lad! Right, sorry, I just in the middle of that, I was trying to clear through our emails because it's a mess.
What a treat.
It is really astonishingly bad.
Are you interested in buying any pure CBD gummies?
I'm actually all right, you know. Yeah.
And it's that time again where we find ourselves in Correspondence Corner. And we have an email here from regular reader of the podcast and one-time special guest.
Always special guest. Always special, just the guest the one time.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And Isabel says, oh gosh, I can't remember how this goes.
I think that's Chinare. Or something. Yeah. Chinare?
Chinara?
I made it sound Italian. Chinare.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Chinara.
Chinara.
Did you think you had heard The Last of Us? Well, fear not, because we are immortalising our non-content on the internet as well, but in Swedish. Basically, Eric, Greta and I thought it was very funny if we started an actual Swedish version of the Wikicast, mostly just to share with our friends, but we noticed the easiest way to share it with our friends and stuff was just to upload it to Spotify, and we wanted to check in and make sure that's okay. Obviously, we aren't monetising it all just for fun. I mean, more than okay.
Okay.
You know, go for it. Do it. We have made a first episode already, so let us know if you want to hear us talk about Swedish Public Employment Service in a language you do not understand. Hope the start of your new year is treating you well, Isabel.
The thing is, I've been told, and I think it was Mark Humes who told me this, that like some of the best music you can listen to when you're trying to work is stuff like K-pop and J-pop. Because if you don't understand the language, you just tune it out. It's just like pleasant background noise.
Yeah.
And I imagine that actually just having a conversation between friends in a language that I don't understand in the background would be quite nice atmosphere. It's almost like being in a coffee shop in Stockholm. So yeah, I could see there being value to this, even if you don't understand Swedish. But if you do, then there is now a localized version of the Wikicast, which will, let's be real, probably be better than the original.
Amazing. Well, I'm definitely going to be listening to that.
So that's actually all the time we have for emails this week. We genuinely like our favorite part of the show is hearing from you. So if you've never emailed in before, please do get in touch. Let us know what you think of the new section, and just we used to put out calls for things like confession corner or crises or whatever. What should people email in about, Dan?
Well, I think given that we're trialling this new corner, it would be great to hear the scores.
Oh no, I mean something totally irrelevant.
Oh, sure. Oh.
Something I want to hear about a random thing, like a random story or something that's happened to you. Like, give them a topic down that they can email in about.
Most exciting thing that's happened since the start of the new year.
Ooh.
So 2022, what has been the most exciting thing? It might have been a fairly slow start for the year, in which case the exciting thing might be a little bit sort of trivial. It doesn't matter. We want to know.
Yeah, we're the Wikicast. We love trivial. It's what our whole show's about.
Yeah, it's our shtick.
So yeah, I like that. If you email in with the most exciting thing that's happened to you since the start of the year, and we will go through the best ones and maybe some of the worst ones next episode.
Absolutely.
So Dan, what have we learned today?
Today, Simon, we learned about first contact in an anthropology or anthropomorphological context.
Anthropomorphological.
Anthropomorphological, right?
Yeah, that's the one. Yes, which is often terrible, but can actually sometimes apparently be quite friendly, and then turn terrible.
We then had my choral piece of the week.
Yes,
I'm just
indeed.
trying to cast my mind back now. It seems so long ago.
Well, it's been a bit of a bumper episode because, as well as all the normal stuff, we played a new game. Which suited us down to the ground, I think.
Absolutely. I think it's gonna be right at home in this ridiculous thing we call the Wikicast podcast.
It needs its own corner. It's gonna be like Trivia Corner or something.
Absolutely.
Or I don't know, playing a game corner? No, it doesn't work. Send an email in with your thoughts on it, including possibly a new name for the corner.
And we can use a sort of countdown-esque theme.
Oh yeah, if you want to do theme music for it, I mean Fergus, I imagine, hopefully will have put something together. But if you could do like full custom music for us, I'd love that.
That would be too exciting.
And that's all for this episode. Don't forget to subscribe to us on your podcasting service of choice. Join the Discord, and if you'd like to see our faces from a few years ago, check out our YouTube channel, Spongy and Electric.
Your top score on Wiki Trivia, most exciting thing of 2022, and other thoughts on the show can be sent to us at spongyelectric@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you.
Join us again for another tumble down the Wiki rabbit hole.
And we'll see you next time.